This week it's the turn of the International Championships from China, so be prepared for some of the best shots of the year, as well as a few shots that are just a little bit different. But it doesn't really matter how difficult the shot is, we're still going to be attempting to recreate all of them as accurately as possible before playing them in the fewest possible attempts. And we begin with Ronnie O'Sullivan, who's been missing for the previous few tournaments, but is now back with this swerve. He needs to hit it in order to get it out of the way of the pocket, but you have to play the swerve absolutely perfectly in order to pot it, and I'm about to find out just how difficult that is. Ronnie lost the frame after missing the following black down the cushion, but did win the match by 6 frames to 3. I'm still struggling here to get the right amount of spin on the cue ball. This one's a little bit hard, but I've got the angle right, so I'm taking it because it's a pretty difficult shot. Well, that was a lot more awkward than I thought it would be, but this Kyren Wilson shot is likely to be the same, as he's finished really close to the pink here, but still manages to cut it in thin and control the cue ball all the way round the table, and ends up making a 123 break, which puts him 3-1 ahead, and he'd eventually take this match by 6 frames to 4. Honestly, I didn't think this was going to be a problem, as you just got to get the angle right and play it with enough side, but I seem to be completely failing at doing both of those things until now. This actually looks a lot better, and the white's coming around the table perfectly for the black. That's about as good as I can get, really. Judd Trump manages to get this pot on a really awkward red now and screw the cue ball back to the green. This more or less secures the frame for him against Zhu C, so he can take a 4 frame to 3 lead. However, he'd lose all the following frames and eventually the match by 6 frames to 4. I'm guessing I'm going to be able to play this shot with a standard cue ball, and I seem to be right, as I'm just about able to screw back far enough to get on the green if I cue this one really well. Unfortunately though, I just don't seem to be able to hit it straight enough, and I'm a little bit inconsistent with where the red's ending up, meaning occasionally I'm missing it by a long way. And you can hear my frustration there, because this is a difficult shot and my cue action appears to be letting me down a little bit, and that's why I keep missing by quite a long way, and I'm just that little bit inconsistent, so it may be some time before I get close enough to pot the ball again. As with all of the shots on these videos, there's some I get a lot quicker than expected, and then there's others like these where I really struggle to get anywhere near it for quite some time, and I'm going to need to improve my cue action if I want it to work. I've got it in the end, although I could have got it a lot quicker. Tight under the bolt cushion now is Zhang under, but that's not going to be enough to stop him powering in this awkward long red and getting the cue ball all the way back down the table for a bolt colour. This wouldn't be enough to see him win this frame though, and he'd only win the match in the decider. I'm a little bit surprised to get this one right away, but I probably shouldn't be after all the practice I got from the previous Judd Trump shot. Chris Wakelin was consistently playing well all the way through this tournament, so it's really not surprising when he got a little bit out of position on this blue, he manages to power it round the angles and get down for the pink and take the frame. He would then eventually take the match by 9 frames to 8. This one's a difficult pot with the amount of left-hand side you need to get on the cue ball, and it's taken me a couple of goes to line it up properly, and I'm still not quite finding the pocket every single time I play it. But hopefully if I can just hit this one a little bit harder than I have here, I should be able to get up near to the pink somewhere. As it's such a difficult shot to get right, I'll just be happy with something that goes close. I've put a lot too much side on this one and I haven't really got anywhere near the pink, although this looks better. I'm coming up right next to the pink and I think I've got the weight perfect. Really happy with the position here. People are suggesting that Ding is back to playing at his absolute best, and after you see this long red, it's hard to argue with that. Not only are the reds close together, but he's only just got a little bit of room to cue past the green. Despite all of this, he manages to pot it and screw the cue ball all the way back to the cushion. You can't cue it any better than this. Or probably in my case, I can't cue it well enough. Although saying that, that's pretty good, and I've got the white almost in the identical position. Well, that can't go any better, really. Yize may have thought he'd found a safe place for the cue ball on the top cushion here, but no, because Kyren Wilson manages to make a plant, get the cue ball down the table and make a 65 break, taking the first frame. He'd eventually win the match by 6 frames to 4. Here's another shot from Kyren that doesn't look too difficult until you try and play it. I've got it eventually, although I was expecting to get that first time easily. Up next is Guodong, who's attempting this long red in order to force a decider against Wakelin. Despite this excellent pot, the cue ball just runs on a little bit too far and he's unable to pot the yellow, so the frame remains in the balance. The problem with this one is you have to play it firm and screw the cue ball back in order to make it arc around the blue, and that's causing me to miss by further than usual on a few of these shots, although I've got it now, but I just can't screw the cue ball back any further than this, so unfortunately that's about the best I can do. Later on in that same semi-final, Wakelin's got a difficult snooker to escape from. Xiao probably thinks this is going to win him the frame. However, Chris manages to hit this and get it safe, getting the snooker back. He'd eventually go on to lose this frame, however, but he would win the match 9 frames to 8 and make it through to the semi-final. I thought my first attempt was about as close as I could get until I played the second. I've tried to correct it here on my third and I haven't got anywhere near it, but I think this one's good. I've hit it on the wrong side, but it looks like I'm going to get the snooker back as well, and as I can't really work out where it's going to go, that's about as good as I'm going to do. How about this for an exhibition shot from Junhui now? Nothing particularly flash about this one, he just cuts it thin all the way up into the green pocket. This looks straightforward, but I guarantee it isn't, as Ding makes a 129 break to take a 5 frames to 4 lead against the world champion Kyren Wilson, before eventually winning the match in the next frame. The thing I find most annoying about this type of shot is it's deceptively thin, and it doesn't seem to matter how much you try to overcut it, you almost always end up hitting it too thick. I'm glad that one didn't go in, because I've been really annoyed if I potted it and it went in off. This looks better though, and I think I've finally got one. Ding made that shot look easy. It's not easy. As he's already comfortably over the line in this frame, I'm not sure how much effort Judd's putting into getting this double on the pink. He's probably more just trying to roll it over the corner pocket. But it goes in, and as there's very few other doubles in this tournament, we're giving this one a go, and it's bound to be annoyingly difficult. From that tight angle, I think I've just had a lucky shot more than anything else. And up against that, how attacking is this from Jackson Page against Guodong in the quarterfinals? Unfortunately, he gets the double, the pink, and then doesn't manage to get on the yellow and loses the frame, and eventually loses a match by 6 frames to 4. I may have left myself a little bit too much angle there, but it's pretty good for a first go, and I could get down for the yellow off the blue pretty easily. But which was the cheekiest double? As Jackson didn't win the frame, both of these shots seem a little bit meaningless, so they're only getting 2 each. But because Judd seemed a little bit harder at least, even though he may not have been playing it, I'm saying he's this week's winner. Time for an extreme cue power shot from Kyren Wilson now, who pots this red that's only over the corner pocket, but screws the cue ball all the way back to the blue, allowing him to go on and make a 109 break, winning the frame, and then eventually the match by 6 frames to 4. I thought I got this with my first attempt, but even with the magic cue ball, I can't seem to give it enough, so I'm going to have to throw my whole body weight at it, and this is pretty good. I got a nice zip reaction off the cue ball, and I'm top side of the blue, so I can't argue with it. Over to Ding now, who's closing in on a win in the final and needs to pot the green and remove the brown from the cushion if he's going to have any chance of making a 100 break in this frame. He gets the cannon about as well as he could hope for, but unfortunately misses the brown. However, he's obviously still won the frame and would go on to take the final by 10 frames to 7. Because Ding missed the brown, I'm really wondering why I included this shot, because it seems fairly pointless. Either way, to remove the brown from the cushion, I need a small trace of right-hand side. I put too much right-hand side on the cue ball to start off with, and I've been trying to power it across to create the angle. I've got it here, it's not great, but it doesn't really matter, does it? How about this for a pot from Ronnie O'Sullivan now, who not only manages to get this long red, he also screws the cue ball back in perfect position for the blue, allowing him to make an 83 break and level the match up 2 frames all against Pang Zhangzhu. Unfortunately for Ronnie, he'd lose the match by 6 frames to 4 after Pang made 2 century breaks in the closing frames. At least I got this one fairly quickly, although I've seemed to go into the cue ball a little bit too much. Not happy with just winning the frame against Barry Hawkins, Kyren Wilson wants a 100 break and manages to get it by playing this perfect cannon on the red near the side cushion, leaving it in a good enough position for him to pot it and make 101. He'd make a century in the next as well and eventually take the match by 6 frames to 2. I took my eyes off the black on the first shot and it went horribly wrong, but the second shot's not too bad. It's not quite right, but if I can pot it with a rest like that, it's got to be good enough, hasn't it? I'd clear up from there. Before the next shot, let's just find Connor from Bellingham, England, which is about there. Effectively, this is just a long red from Aaron Hill as the cue ball goes all the way back to the bolt cushion and it just really gets him out of trouble. However, he would eventually win this frame and level the match up at 2 frames all, but eventually lose 6-2 to Mark Allen. I think this is a first shot like this I've played with side spin today, so it may take a few shots for me to get used to it, and I seem to be putting too much side spin on it and not enough back spin, so I'm going to have to adjust that before I'm going to be able to get this right. Although it's gone in, I haven't quite got into the cue ball enough to get between the yellow and brown, but that's not bad. And how about this for a pot from Wu Yize? He doesn't just pot this red, he absolutely screams it into the pocket. This is enough to see him win the frame, but he'd eventually lose 6-4 to Kyren Wilson. I usually try to avoid playing shots like this with excess power, but let's see how well I get on with this one. I've corrected it after the first attempt, so that's pretty good, and I'm nicely in position on the blue. Well, there we go. Don't forget to use the link in the description to vote for the winning shot, which is going to be important in a few weeks' time when we put them all together and find the best shot of the entire year. And you can look at more of those shots by seeing these 2 videos. And remember, don't just watch, play, and make the commitment to becoming a better player by subscribing to the channel and visit the website. See you later.